The night was silent, but the silence did not feel safe. The human traveler walked slowly through the ruins of the alien colony, his boots crunching on broken glass and scattered stones. Tall buildings stood like skeletons against the pale moon. Their walls cracked and windows empty. Every corner looked like it held a secret, and every shadow felt alive. He carried only a small light in his hand, its beam cutting through the dust and fog that floated in the streets. The colony looked dead, but he knew something was still here. The air was heavy, filled with the smell of smoke and decay. Doors swung open in the wind, and sometimes a piece of metal fell with a sharp sound, echoing through the empty streets. He was ready to turn back, but then he heard it very soft, almost too soft to believe, a whisper carried on the wind. "Take my toy. Just feed my sister." He froze, his heart pounding in his chest. The words were not human, but they were clear. Trembling with weakness and fear, slowly he turned the light toward the sound. In the shadow of a broken wall, a small figure appeared. It was a child, thin and pale, her skin marked with faint glowing lines that ran like rivers of light under the surface. Her large eyes reflected the light, filled with both fear and hope. The child held something in her tiny hands, a broken toy glowing faintly blue. Her voice shook as she spoke again. "Take it. Please, just give food to my sister." The human stepped closer, unsure if what he was seeing was real. The child's knees were shaking, her arms trembling as she extended the toy toward him. It was not just a simple toy, he realized. It was made of crystal and metal, too advanced to belong to any human child. The human knelt down slowly, lowering the light so it would not blind her. "Where is your sister?" he asked gently, his voice calm. The child pointed to a dark building across the street, her hand barely lifting. "She is inside. She is hungry. She cannot move anymore." For a moment, the man felt his breath stop. 2 children, alone. In this dead colony, no one else around, no one to care for them. Why were they left behind? Who had done this? The human looked at the toy in her hand, glowing softly like a dying star. She was offering her last treasure, her only comfort, in exchange for food. The weight of that broke his heart. He did not take the toy. Instead, he reached into his pack and pulled out a small ration bar. He broke it in half and placed it gently in her hands. "Eat this first," he said. "Then we will help your sister." The child hesitated, staring at the food as if it were a miracle. She shook her head and pushed it back toward him. "For her. Only for her," she whispered. The human felt a chill run down his spine. This child was starving, yet she refused to eat until her sister was fed. He stood slowly, his eyes scanning the shadows around them. The colony was too quiet, too empty. Something about it felt wrong, but he could not leave them here. The whisper of the child had already tied itself around his heart, pulling him deeper into their fate. He held out his hand. "Come with me," he said. The child clutched her toy close to her chest and stepped forward. Her feet made no sound on the broken ground, her small body almost swallowed by the darkness. Together, they crossed the street, every step echoing with suspense. The building she pointed to loomed like a black mouth waiting to swallow them. Inside, the air was colder, dust hung thick in the narrow hall. He raised his light, and at the far end, lying against the wall, was another child. Even smaller, even weaker, her body thin like paper, her glowing lines dim, her eyes were closed, her lips dry and cracked. The human hurried forward, kneeling beside her. He gently touched her shoulder, and her eyes opened slightly. There was no strength in them, only emptiness. The older child ran to her side, pressing the ration bar into her sister's hands. "Eat, please eat," she begged, her own voice breaking. The younger one tried, but she was too weak. The human quickly took out water and held it to her lips, helping her drink slowly, a little. Color returned to her face, and she swallowed a small piece of food. It was not much, but it was enough to give her a spark of life. The human sat back against the cold wall, looking at the two alien children, alone, abandoned, starving. What kind of world left children like this to die? His hands tightened into fists. Something deep inside him whispered too. A vow he could not ignore. I will not leave them. Outside in the ruined streets, the wind carried a new sound. A low growl, distant but growing closer. The human's eyes narrowed. The colony was not as empty as it looked. The shadows were not just shadows. Something was hunting in the dark, and now he was not alone anymore. He had two lives to protect. The whisper of the alien child had become a bond, and bonds, once made, could not be broken. Asterisk. The night did not grow kinder. The human stepped back into the street with the two alien children close behind. The older one clutched her glowing toy tightly, as if afraid the wind might take it away. The younger one leaned weakly on her sister's shoulder, every step heavy as stone. The human held his small light higher, its glow pushing away the shadows, but not the fear that hung in the air. The colony stretched around them like a ghost city. Tall buildings stood empty, their walls cracked and blackened. Metal doors swung in the cold breeze, creaking like voices trying to speak. Everywhere he looked, there were signs of life that had ended too quickly. Bowls still filled with dried food, cups broken on the ground, clothes hanging on wires as if their owners would return any moment. But they never did. The older child whispered. They all ran. They left us. They were afraid. Her voice cracked, but she did not cry. The human slowed, looking at her face, pale and lined with faint glowing veins. She was too young to understand everything, yet old enough to know she had been abandoned. The weight of it pressed on him. But he did not speak. He only guided them forward, searching for shelter. The silence of the streets was broken only by the sound of their footsteps. But now and then, a faint noise slipped through a soft scrape. A low thud, the hiss of something unseen. The human stopped many times, scanning the shadows, but saw nothing. The children looked at him with wide, fearful eyes. They had lived in this silence long enough to know it was not empty. At the edge of the street, they came upon a wide plaza. In the center stood a broken fountain, its waters long gone, its basin cracked. Around it lay toys, small shoes, and a piece of cloth with childish drawings. The younger child bent down, touching the cloth with weak fingers. Her lips trembled. This was my friend's. She used to play here. The human felt a sharp ache in his chest. The plaza was not just broken stone, it was a memory of joy cut short. He looked around carefully. The windows above seemed to watch them, empty eyes staring down. The air was heavy, pressing against his skin. Something was close, something waiting. He tightened his grip on his light and motioned the children to stay close. The older child whispered again, "Why are you helping us?" Her question was simple, but her tone was heavy. The human paused, looking down at her. "I couldn't walk away," he answered softly. "You asked for help, so I will help." Her eyes glistened, but she nodded, hugging the toy tighter. The bond between them grew stronger with every step. They moved on, weaving through narrow alleys where shadows curled like snakes. Broken signs lay scattered on the ground, glowing faintly with dead energy. The walls carried scratches long, deep marks as if claws had torn through stone itself. The human stopped, tracing one with his hand. It was fresh, too fresh. His stomach tightened. He turned sharply, scanning the rooftops, the corners, the windows. But nothing moved, only the sound of the wind, whistling through broken doors, still. He felt it, the sense of being hunted. The children stayed close, their small breaths quick and shallow. Finally, they reached an old supply building, its doors half broken, but still standing. The human pushed them open slowly, the hinges crying. Out inside, dust swirled in the beam of his light, but the shelves still held containers. He moved quickly, opening them. Most were empty, others spoiled, but in the corner, he found sealed packs of food and bottles of clean water. Relief washed over him like a wave. He handed some food to the children, and this time, they ate. The older one took small bites, carefully saving pieces for her sister. The younger one, weak but smiling faintly now, whispered, "Thank you." The human nodded, but his eyes stayed fixed on the dark doorway. They had food, they had water, but they did not have safety while the children rested. He walked to the broken window and looked outside. The empty streets stretched into the distance. But he noticed something new. On the far wall of a ruined building, there was a mark, not just a scratch, but a symbol. It was burned into the stone, glowing faintly red. The shape was strange, like a twisted claw wrapping around a circle. He had never seen it before, but it radiated danger. The human felt the weight of decision pressing on him. He could leave now, take the children far from here, or he could stay, try to learn what happened, try to uncover why this colony was destroyed. Every instinct told him danger was close, but when he looked back at the children, huddled together, clutching the toy and whispering softly, he knew the truth. He could not leave them, not yet, not ever. The wind outside carried another sound, a long, low growl that rumbled through the streets. The children froze, their food falling from their hands. The human tightened his jaw, his hand closing around the handle of his blade. The colony was not just empty, it was alive with predators, and the night was only just beginning. The small supply building was cold, but it gave a little safety. The human sat near the broken window, his hand resting on the hilt of his blade. The two alien children huddled together in the corner, sharing the food he had given them. The older sister broke each bite in half, pressing more into her younger sister's hands. Even though her own stomach cried for more, the human noticed it, and his chest tightened, even in hunger. She chose her sister first. For a long moment, no one spoke. The night outside whispered with low growls and distant crashes. The children's soft chewing was the only sound that reminded him life still lingered here. The younger one's eyes grew heavy, but she fought to stay awake, her hand held tightly to her sister's sleeve, afraid that if she closed her eyes, she might open them alone. The human turned his light away so it would not shine too bright on them. They deserved a little peace, even in ruins. After some silence, the older child finally spoke. Her voice was thin but steady. "You are human, from the stars. Why? Help us?" No one else did. The human looked at her, then back at the dark streets. "I don't know why your people left you," he said, his tone heavy, "but I know this. I could not walk past, not when I saw you." The child lowered her gaze, clutching her glowing toy tighter. Her lips trembled, and for the first time a tear slid down her cheek. She wiped it quickly, as if ashamed to cry. "This toy. It is all I have," she whispered. "It belonged to my father. He said it would always protect us." Her small fingers brushed the cracks in the toy's surface, the blue glow flickering faintly. The human leaned closer, noticing details he had missed before. Strange markings carved into the crystal, small pieces of hidden machinery inside the metal frame. It was not only a toy, it was something more, something built with purpose. But he did not tell her yet. For her, it was not a device, it was a memory, and memories were stronger than weapons. Younger sister stirred, her weak voice breaking the silence. "Are we going to die here?" The human turned, his eyes meeting hers. She was so small, so fragile, yet her question carried the weight of despair. "No," he said firmly. "Not while I am here." The words came out like a vow, sharp and unshakable. The child nodded slowly, and her eyes closed, exhaustion pulling her into sleep. Her sister pulled her closer, covering her with what little cloth they had. The human stood, walking slowly through the room, checking every corner. Old supplies lay broken, metal shelves bent and empty. Yet he found a blanket under the dust and shook it out, laying it gently over the children. The older one looked at him with wide, unreadable eyes. She did not speak, but he saw the silent trust forming there, a fragile bond, growing like a flame in the dark. As the night stretched on, he listened to the streets outside. The low growls came and went, echoing off the buildings. Sometimes he thought he saw shapes move in the distance, long and twisted, crawling across walls and rooftops. He did not wake the children. Their bodies needed rest more than their minds. Needed fear, but his own rest would never come. Not tonight, near dawn. When the pale light of a dead sun crept over the horizon, the older child stirred again. She walked quietly to where he sat, holding her toy against her chest. For a moment, she only stood beside him, staring out through the broken window. Finally she whispered, "My name is Lyra. My sister is Selly." The human turned his head, offering a faint smile. "I am Kale," he replied. "It is good to know your names." The bond grew stronger with that simple exchange. Names were power, and now they were no longer strangers. Lyra sat down beside him, her legs thin as sticks, her eyes heavy but determined. "My father said humans were dangerous," she admitted softly. "He said you only care for your own kind, but you gave us food. You stayed with us." Her voice trembled as if she feared the words themselves. Kale looked down at his hands, rough and scarred. "Maybe some humans are like that," he said, "but not all. Just like not all of your people would leave children behind." Lyra lowered her head, silent, but her fingers reached out slightly, brushing the edge of his sleeve before pulling back quickly. The bond was fragile, but it was real. Suddenly, a sound shattered the quiet. A sharp crash echoed through the empty streets, followed by a roar that shook the air. Selly woke with a cry, clutching at her sister. Kale was already on his feet, blade in hand, his body tense. Through the window, he saw shadows moving fast, large, twisted shapes crawling along the walls. Like predators hunting in packs, their glowing eyes flickered in the distance. Too many to count. The children froze, terror locking their small bodies. Kale moved quickly, blocking the window with his body. "Stay behind me," he ordered firmly. His voice was low but filled with command. Lyra held her sister close, her toy clutched tight against her chest. The blue glow from the toy flickered, brighter this time, as if responding to the danger. Kale noticed it, his heart pounding harder. There was something hidden in that toy, something waiting to awaken. The growls outside grew louder. Closer, claws scraped against stone, sharp and hungry. The fragile bond between human and alien child was about to be tested, and in the shadows of the empty streets, the hunt was beginning. The growls outside grew sharper, rising and falling like voices of beasts circling their prey. Kale gripped his blade tightly, his knuckles white. The children pressed against the wall, their small bodies trembling. The blue glow from Lyra's toy pulsed faster now, as if alive. It painted soft light across her face, mixing fear with something else, something ancient. The sound of claws scraped against stone. Long and slow, it came from the street first, then from the rooftops, then from every direction. The colony was alive again. Not with people, but with hunters. Kale stepped forward, standing between the doorway and the children. He spoke calmly, though his heart raced. "Stay low, stay quiet. No matter what." Lyra nodded, pulling Selly close, her toy clutched against her chest. The first shadow appeared in the plaza. Its body was long and twisted, its limbs bent in unnatural ways. Its eyes glowed faint red, burning through the mist. Kale tightened his jaw. He had seen strange beasts before on distant worlds, but nothing like this. This creature did not move like an animal, it moved like hunger itself. Another one crawled onto the rooftop, its claws digging into stone. Then another slithered from a broken alley. Soon, Kale counted 5, maybe 6, circling the building. Their growls blended together, forming a sound that chilled the blood. Selly whimpered softly, but Lyra covered her mouth, whispering, "Quiet, quiet." Kale's eyes scanned the room. The building was weak, the walls cracked, the doors broken. If the creatures attacked, they would not hold for long. He needed to move, but where? The streets outside were filled with hunters. Still, staying here meant death. One of the creatures slammed against the doorway, the wood cracking under the force. Dust rained from the ceiling as Selly cried out. Kale swung his blade up, his muscles tense. "Back!" he roared, stepping into the doorway. The creature pulled back, hissing. Its teeth long and jagged, its eyes burned brighter, focused only on him. It wanted him alive, it wanted to taste the fight. The toy in Lyra's hands pulsed again, brighter than before. Kale noticed it glowing stronger with each roar of the beasts. It was reacting to them. "Lyra," Kale said quickly, "don't let go of that toy, no matter what happens." Her small fingers tightened around it, her eyes wide with fear but also a spark of courage. The creature struck again, this time two at once. Smashing against the doorway, the wood splintered. The air filled with their hissing breath. Kale slashed forward, his blade cutting deep into the arm of the first one. The creature screamed, its cry like metal tearing apart. It staggered back, black liquid dripping onto the stone. But another leapt from the side, claws swiping through the air. Kale ducked, rolling to the ground, his blade striking upward into its chest. The beast collapsed, thrashing, before melting into a dark pool that smoked against the floor. For a brief moment, silence returned. Then, the growls doubled, louder, angrier. The others were closing in, crawling on walls and dropping from the rooftops. Kale's breath came heavy, sweat running down his face. He could not fight them all, not like this, Kale. Lyra shouted suddenly, her voice breaking through the chaos. The toy in her hands flared with light, bright enough to blind. The glow filled the room, pushing shadows back. The creatures hissed, stumbling away, their eyes burning with fury. Kale shielded his face, stunned. The toy. It was not just a memory, not just a plaything. It was a weapon or something far older. The glow dimmed, but the beasts did not retreat. They circled again, smarter now, waiting for weakness. Kale ran to the children, grabbing Selly in one arm and pulling Lyra close with the other. "We move," he said sharply. "Now." He pushed through the back of the building, kicking open a broken panel. The night air hit them cold. Behind them, the walls shook as the hunters forced their way inside. They ran through the narrow alleys, Kale's light swinging wildly across broken stone and shattered glass. The children stumbled, but he lifted them when needed. Never slowing, the growls followed close, claws striking the ground behind them. Every turn of the alley felt like a trap, every shadow a new mouth waiting to bite. But Kale pressed on, driven by the small hands clutching at him. At last, they burst into another plaza, larger than the first. The ruins here were burned black, and the ground was scarred with strange patterns. At the center stood a tall structure, half collapsed, but still glowing faintly with alien light. Kale dragged the children toward it, his eyes darting everywhere for movement. The hunters spilled into the plaza behind them, their red eyes glowing like a sea of fire. Too many, far too many. Lyra clutched the toy tighter, tears on her face. "It's not just a toy," she whispered. "It's a call, my father said. It calls the stars." Kale looked at her, stunned. A call? A beacon? His mind raced, but the growls grew louder. The creatures were closing in, their bodies crawling over the ruins like waves. He placed the children behind him, raising his blade. The hunters spread out, circling them in the center of the plaza. Kale's muscles ached, his body already marked with cuts, but his eyes burned with fire. "If they want us," he growled, "they will have to bleed for it." The toy pulsed again, brighter and brighter. Lyra's small voice trembled as she whispered, "Father, hear us." And in that moment, the ruins themselves seemed to awaken. The ground trembled, the air vibrated with power. The hunters froze, snarling, uncertain. Kale stood tall, blade ready. The night was not finished. The hunt had only just begun. The plaza shook as the glow from the toy spread wider. Cracks of blue light ran across the broken stones like rivers. The hunters froze, their red eyes burning but their bodies hesitant. They hissed, claws scraping against stone. But none dared to step closer. Kale held his blade steady, Sweat dripping down his face, the children stayed behind him. Lyra holding her sister tight, her toy glowing like a beating heart. The ruins around them hummed softly. It was as if the toy had woken something hidden beneath the city. A faint vibration filled the air, making the ground tremble. Sully looked up weakly, her eyes wide. It's alive. The ground is alive. Cale narrowed his gaze. He had seen old technology before, left behind by civilizations long gone. This was the same ancient, powerful, and dangerous. The hunters did not leave. They circled the plaza, growling, waiting for the light to dim. Cale knew the glow would not last forever. He had only moments to decide. Either they stayed and trusted the strange device, or they tried to run through the swarm of beasts. Neither choice promised survival. Suddenly, the toy in Lyra's hands changed. The glow shifted into patterns, small lines of light weaving together into symbols. They floated above the toy, bright and sharp. Cale stared, realizing they were not random shapes. They were words, a message in alien language alive in light. Lyra gasped, her voice trembling. I know these symbols. Father taught me. Her fingers brushed through the glowing lines, and the shapes moved as if listening to her. It says this is a key of echoes. It holds a message and a call. Her eyes lifted to Cale, filled with fear and hope. If I finish the sequence, it will send a call to the stars. Cale's grip on his blade tightened. A call to the stars. A distress beacon, perhaps. If true, it could bring her people back. But he also knew signals like this were not always safe. Anyone could hear, friend or enemy. He looked at the hunters still circling, their red eyes reflecting hunger. Would they be drawn to the signal too? Lyra, Cale said firmly, can you activate it? She nodded, but her hands shook. It needs energy. I don't know how much. And it says, once the call is sent, the key will break. Her lips trembled. It will be gone forever. The toy, her last piece of her father, would be lost. Cale's chest ached. She was only a child, yet already forced to choose between memory and survival. The hunters roared, their patience breaking. One leaped into the plaza, claws outstretched. Cale reacted instantly. Swinging his blade with fierce strength, the steel sliced across its body, black blood spraying across the stone. The beast collapsed with a scream that rattled the air. The others pulled back, snarling, their red eyes brighter now. The smell of blood made them wilder. Do it, Cale barked. Send the call now. Lyra knelt on the ground, clutching the toy. Her small fingers pressed the glowing symbols, each one responding with bursts of light. Sully crawled closer, pressing her tiny hands over her sister's, whispering, Hurry, Lyra, hurry. The key pulsed stronger, filling the plaza with waves of light. Cale stood guard, his blade flashing again and again as the hunters tested the edges of the glow. Every strike shook his arms. Every roar made his blood run faster, but he did not step back. He had promised he would protect them, and his word was iron. The symbols above the toy twisted into a spiral. A beam of blue light shot into the sky, piercing the clouds. The ruins shook violently, as if the city itself had been waiting for this signal. The hunters screamed, thrashing against the light, their bodies twisting in pain. Some fled into the shadows, others fell to the ground, writhing before dissolving into dark smoke. Cale gasped for breath, lowering his blade slightly. The key had worked at least, for now, but the cost came quickly. The toy cracked, the crystal inside splitting with sharp sounds. Lyra cried out, holding it close. No. Please no. The light dimmed, the patterns fading into nothing. The toy no. The key was dead. What remained in her hands was just broken metal and crystal dust. Her tears fell on it, but no glow returned. Cale knelt beside her, his hand resting gently on her shoulder. You did it, he said softly. The call is sent. Your father's gift saved you. But Lyra shook her head, clutching the broken pieces. It's gone. He's gone. Her voice broke into sobs, her body trembling. Selly hugged her tightly, whispering weak words of comfort. The bond between the sisters was stronger than ever, but the pain was deep. Cale looked at the sky. The beam of light still burned high, piercing through the black clouds. Somewhere out there, someone would see it. Someone would come. But who? Would it be her people, returning for their lost children? Or would something worse arrive, drawn by the call? The hunters had not all vanished in the distance. Their red eyes still burned in the shadows, watching, waiting. Cale rose to his feet, his blade heavy in his hand. This was not over. The call had been sent, but survival was not yet won. The bond between them had given strength. Now it would be tested against the darkness still coming. The blue beam from the key had faded into the night sky, but its echo still burned in Cale's chest. The call was sent, but no answer had come. The hunters had not left. Their red eyes glowed from the shadows, circling the plaza like wolves. Around a fire, Lyra and Selly huddled together behind the broken fountain, their small bodies trembling. The key lay shattered in Lyra's hands, nothing more than broken crystal now. Yet Cale knew it had done its work. The question was, would help arrive before the monsters tore them apart? The silence broke with a screech. One of the hunters lunged from the side, claws slicing the air. Cale moved fast, his blade flashing, cutting across its chest. The beast staggered but did not fall. Its strength greater than before, another leapt from the rooftop, jaws wide. Cale ducked and rolled, his blade slicing upward into its belly, black liquid spilling across the stones. The plaza echoed with roars, the pack growing restless. They wanted blood, and Cale was the wall standing between them and the children. He stood tall, chest heaving, his arms burned with pain, his body cut and bruised, but his eyes never left the enemy. Every breath he took was a vow. They will not have these children, Cale. Lyra shouted, her voice desperate. They won't stop. You can't fight them all. Cale gritted his teeth, stepping back toward the fountain. Then I will fight until they stop. He growled. He lifted his blade again, ready as the next. Wave of hunters crept closer. The ground shook, a deep rumble rolling through the ruins. Cale froze for a moment. The hunters hissed, uneasy, their red eyes flickering. From beneath the plaza, faint light bled through the cracks. The key's energy had not vanished completely. It had awakened something deep underground. Lyra gasped. The city. It's answering the call. Her words were soft, but Cale felt the truth in them. The ruins themselves were stirring, but the hunters were not afraid for long. They roared again, charging forward in a frenzy. Cale swung his blade, his strikes fast and brutal. One beast fell, another recoiled, but more came. Claws ripped across his arm, teeth grazed his shoulder. Pain shot through him, hot and sharp. He staggered but did not fall. Behind him, the children screamed. Their cries pushed him back to his feet. Pain meant nothing, only survival mattered. The light under the plaza grew stronger, cracks widened. Glowing with blue fire, the hunters screeched, their bodies twitching as the energy spread. Cale realized the truth. The city was not just ruins. It was a weapon, an ancient fortress still alive beneath the stone. But to awaken it fully, something more was needed, a sacrifice. The ground split near the fountain, releasing a burst of blinding light. Symbols rose into the air, the same alien script that had appeared above the key. They circled, spinning faster and faster. Lyra stared at them, her lips trembling. It wants a guardian. Someone must stand as the shield. Her eyes lifted to Cale, fear mixing with understanding. The city was asking for life in exchange for its power. Cale looked down at the children, their faces pale with terror. He felt the weight of his scars. His years of wandering, he had been alone for so long, fighting battles that meant nothing. Now at last he had found something worth dying for. He placed a hand on Lyra's shoulder, his voice calm but strong. Stay with your sister. Protect her, no matter what happens. Lyra shook her head violently, tears streaming. No, you can't. You promised you wouldn't leave us. Kale's heart ached at her words, but his decision was already made. The hunters surged again, their claws striking the fountain. Kale roared, charging forward with every last ounce of strength. His blade cut deep, his body moved like fire. One beast fell, then another, his arms heavy but unrelenting. Every strike was fueled by the faces of the two children behind him. Every drop of blood he shed was a promise that they would live. The light beneath the plaza burst upward, wrapping around Kale. His body glowed, outlined in blue fire. The ancient fortress accepted his sacrifice. Energy poured into him, strengthening his strikes. The hunters screamed as his blade cut like lightning. Each movement shattered the air, each roar silenced by his fury. The city itself fought through him. He was no longer just Kale, he was the guardian the ruins demanded. But every gift came with a price. The light burned inside him, draining his life. He knew his time was short. Still, he fought, each moment earned with blood and fire. The hunters fell one by one, their red eyes extinguished. The plaza shook as beams of energy shot outward, driving the last of them into the night. Silence followed, broken only by Kale's ragged breathing. Lyra ran forward, clutching his arm, her tears falling fast. "Stop! Please stop, you'll die." Kale knelt slowly, his blade resting on the ground. His body glowed faintly, his eyes tired but warm. "I told you I would protect you," he whispered, "and I did." He touched Selly's cheek gently, her small hand gripping his fingers. Her lips trembled. "Don't go." The light around him pulsed again, brighter. Kale looked to the sky, where the call still burned faintly among the stars. "Someone will come," he said softly. "Hold on to each other." "And live," the children cried, holding his arms as the light grew too strong to bear. Kale's body shimmered, dissolving into the glow. His blade clattered to the ground, the last piece of him left behind. The plaza erupted with radiant energy. The hunters fled into the shadows. Screeching in terror, the ruins stood bright once more, alive and fierce. At its heart, Kale's sacrifice burned like a star. Lyra and Selly clung to each other, their hearts broken but alive. The bond between them and the human was now sealed forever in light. The ruins were quiet again. The hunters had vanished into the night, their red eyes swallowed by darkness. The plaza glowed with faint blue light, soft and warm, but at its center, Kale was gone. Only his blade remained, resting against the broken fountain. Lyra and Selly clung to each other, their small bodies shaking with sobs. They had seen him vanish into the light, his final promise echoing in their hearts. For a long time the sisters sat in silence. The broken key lay in Lyra's lap, its pieces dull and lifeless. She pressed them close, whispering, "He saved us. He gave everything." Selly leaned against her, too weak to speak, but her tears wet her sister's arm. The plaza trembled softly, as if mourning with them, yet above, the sky was no longer empty. The faint beam of the key still burned across the stars, a call waiting for an answer. Hours passed. The children did not move far, afraid to leave the place where Kale had stood. But then, in the distance, a sound broke the silence. Not a growl, not a hiss, a hum deep and steady. Lyra lifted her head, her eyes wide. The sound grew louder, filling the air above the ruins. The clouds split open. A ship descended from the heavens, its hull shining with silver light. Blue flames trailed from its engines as it slowed. Hovering over the plaza, Lyra's heart leapt. She recognized the shape, the symbols on its side. "It's them. Our people," she whispered, her voice breaking. The ship landed gently, its doors sliding open. Figures stepped out tall, glowing faintly with the same patterns on their skin as the sisters. Survivors, soldiers, leaders, faces of home. They rushed forward, their voices filled with shock and relief. Two small forms had been left behind, but now they were found. The sisters were lifted into strong arms, wrapped in blankets. Doctors checked them quickly, giving water and warm food. But Lyra shook her head, pointing to the fountain. "Wait, Kale. The human. He saved us. Her words spilled out, her voice desperate. He fought them. He gave his life for us. The aliens froze, their glowing eyes meeting each other. They had expected only sorrow, but instead they heard of sacrifice. A human had stood where no one else had. They followed her trembling hand, seeing the blade. Left behind, one of them picked it up slowly, holding it with care. The metal was scarred and dark with dried blood, but it shone faintly under the plaza's glow. "This weapon," the alien whispered. "It carries his strength." The others bowed their heads, silent respect filling the air. Lyra held tightly to her sister as they were guided onto the ship. Her eyes stayed on the plaza until the last moment. The ruins still glowed, a memory carved into stone. She whispered softly, "We won't forget you, Kale." "Never." Sully's small hand clutched hers, nodding weakly. The bond they shared with the human would never break. As the ship lifted into the sky, the ruins below faded into mist. The hunters never returned. The city stood silent again, but its heart had changed. It had seen sacrifice. It had witnessed a light stronger than fear, and it carried that memory deep within its stones. On the ship, the sisters were given rest. Warm food filled their empty stomachs, soft blankets covered their thin frames. But Lyra could not sleep. She held the broken key close, the last gift of her father. Beside it lay Kale's blade, placed in her hands by the alien captain. "This belongs to you now," he said. "He gave his life for you. It must stay with you." Her small fingers wrapped around the hilt, heavy but strong. She felt Kale's presence in its weight. The blade was no longer just steel, it was a promise. Days later, the alien fleet gathered. Ships filled the sky, their lights shining like stars. The story spread quickly among them. The children who had been left behind, saved not by their own kind, but by a lone human. The tale grew, whispered in every hall, spoken in every chamber. It became more than survival, it became a legend. And in that legend, Kale's name lived, the human who stood against the dark, who gave everything for two alien children. For Lyra and Sally, he was not just a savior, he was family. Every night, Lyra whispered his promise to her sister, "We will live." For him, Sally would smile faintly, clutching the blanket around her, and together, they dreamed of the day they would see the stars free of monsters, a day Kale had fought to give them. Years later, when they were stronger, when their people rebuilt what was lost, Lyra still carried his blade. She became known not as the child left behind, but as the guardian's daughter. And whenever she spoke of Kale, her voice was steady, filled with pride. He was human, she would say, but his heart was brighter than any star. And those who heard her knew the truth, that bonds of blood could be broken, but bonds of sacrifice could never fade. Kale's light had not died in the ruins. It had been carried into the future, a spark of hope, born in darkness, living forever in those who remembered.